welcome to Technically Foul, sports podcast where we take our sports a little more than personal, but not too over the top, where we get flagrant about it. The Heat are out. The Bucks swept them. I was completely wrong with my predictions. I said Heat in 7 just to be a contrarian, just to be kind of fun with it. And the more I look at this series, the more I look at how maybe not everybody knew exactly what was going to go on. So I guess this following episode will be more or less a segment called Too Busy, Didn't Watch. We're going to go through each series, give everybody the gist, give everybody what our overall takeaways were. And we're going to start with Bucks Heat, something that I was completely wrong with. I didn't think that Drew was going to make this big of a difference in retrospect. I feel like an avid Bucks fan watching throughout the regular season would be able to say, like, yeah, Drew completely makes a difference on defense. And, this definitely shown in the Miami series.
Yeah, and I think that combined with just the fact that the Heat struggled overall, like Jimmy had probably one of his worst playoff series of his career. I was looking it up earlier and he shot like 30% from the field, 30% from three. He only averaged like 15 points. And compared to last season when he was like superhuman last playoff run, he was really looking like one of the top players in the game. And we talked about it too. Like, should we consider Jimmy Butler in that top echelon of players? And this playoff run, for whatever reason, he wasn't able to replicate the success he had last year. And really, you could say that about the whole Heat roster. Tyler Hero, we were talking about earlier, completely fell off a cliff. He also struggled with his shooting percentages. He wasn't playing a ton. He was coming off the bench. So I mean, I was surprised. I picked the Bucks in 6. I thought the Heat were gonna have more fight to them, especially after that game 1, because they went into overtime. Jimmy sent it to overtime. Then Chris Middleton hit a game winner. So after that game, you kind of figured it was gonna be a close series. But the thing is, Milwaukee, they just didn't let it get close after that. And they're so good offensively now too. Like before, they were such a defensive powerhouse, and now they really have both sides of that because Drew added an extra dimension, like you said. They have Chris Middleton, who can score in the mid-range 3-point. He can drive. And then Giannis, who collapses the defense at will, and he's a pretty good playmaker as well. So they really have both sides of the ball now. They're elite on both sides. So they're going to be a tough out. And the thing with them is, and we were talking about this earlier, is like, I think if Miami could have kept it close, it would have been a longer series, but they just weren't able to stay close. And they ended up losing, I think, their last 3 games by a combined 80 points. So, I mean, Milwaukee's just going to do that to some teams because, like I said, now they're elite on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and considering that not too many of their games were that close, we were able to see a little sample size of how Milwaukee was going to be reacting to those like clutch end of regulation type of possessions, and having Chris Middleton actually be able to create his own shot makes them a little bit more, unpredictable as opposed to just Giannis driving into a wall and then spin move and then kicking it out for someone else. So I don't know if that's something that they necessarily started to incorporate more so this season, but I do know that it seems like Miami kind of sold out in terms of what their culture was, because Bradley and then Crowder are no longer in the team. They bring in Oladipo, which was interesting because I didn't think that was going to happen. There were reports about Oladipo not necessarily being like a Miami Heat type of player. Turns out he ends up getting injured, so he's not even in this matchup anyways. And because there's no more Bradley or Crowder, you don't have like that extra wing on defense or that extra point guard to really like crowd the backcourt. And compared to last year, it seems like they just flipped the whole wall defense that was on Giannis. So the Bucks did the same thing with if it was either with Jimmy or if it was with Bam. And something that I wanted to get more into too was Bam is very versatile. He's a Swiss Army knife, but if the Heat want to make any more moves or get any higher in terms of rankings for next season, he's going to have to expand his game. And I feel like Miami is going to really want and need to invest in him to, revolve around Bam's offense more and not just have it be Jimmy making the plays. And, Bam, you can use him more as just a defensive, like Swiss Army knife. And he has to be utilized on offense just a little bit more and just needs to be more unpredictable, I suppose.
Yeah, I do wonder where his development is going to go because I mean, he could get better in the post. He doesn't when he plays in the post, it's normally like as a passer.
Hmm.
Like I've always compared him to a souped up Draymond because he's such a great
Souped up.
playmaker. He can defend. Um, he's not a great shooter. Like those are things they all have in common. So I wonder where he's gonna go in his development next because he's added a little bit of a mid range. So I wonder if that's the next step for him is expanding his range, maybe to the 3 point line, taking more threes, or if he's gonna go more in the post, try to punish smaller guys more often. But I do like that's one way that they can really improve. I've heard, obviously they're going to be linked to every big name in the market. And with the Clippers being down in their series, one of those names was Kawhi. So they've been linked to Kawhi. And then having Oladipo's a free agent this offseason. So they're going to have to make a decision on him. If they sign him, I think it's going to be like a 1 year, 2 year deal worth not a lot of money because he wasn't able to show them that much while he was in their uniform. So it's going to be interesting to see like which avenue they really go. But the Bam one is like a sure bet because I believe they already paid Bam. Like he's already under contract for a while, and he's one of their younger core pieces. So it just makes sense for them to work with him in developing, whether it's that 3 point shot or adding more moves, more post moves that can get him easy buckets.
Yeah, and after last season's finals run, I feel like both of us, everybody was on a Jimmy Butler high, and he was like, "Oh, he's probably better than Paul George." And then we see a series like this, but also have to take into consideration the full picture of, yeah, I mean, it's a coronavirus infected season, pandemic, blah blah blah. Everybody had injuries. Some people got infected. Some teams like the Heat got hit more with COVID and more so than other teams. So, do you take this as like a major dent to Butler's like reputation as, I guess, an elite superstar, or do you like, oh, this is like an asterisk? This season didn't really matter too much to his reputation and his legacy.
This kind of pushed him down to where he was before because making a finals run like that, I was seeing arguments on Twitter like earlier today about who's better, PG or Jimmy Butler.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, the argument for Jimmy Butler is he's made it to the finals. He's made it further than Paul George has ever gone, and he was the number one guy. PG made it to the Eastern Conference Finals a long time ago, and he was the number one guy in Indiana, but he hasn't been that guy for a while now.
That was
And so,
2013,
like,
I think.
yeah, and that's kind of been the debate. I think he's on that level of PG too. Uh, and like before, we were talking about him on the level of like Kawhi, because Kawhi had also made that kind of run with the Raptors. And that's where I was thinking about him because clearly, if you're able to take your team to the finals as the number one guy, and then just his performance in the finals as well, with Goran Dragic injured, the way he was getting triple doubles and looking exhausted, like leaning on the scoreboard or whatever it was, like he looked like one of the top guys. I still think he can be. The only problem with Jimmy is his jumper. Like he just doesn't make jumpers, and when you don't shoot well, it's tough to be consistently like a top five guy. And the reason why he was really good in the finals, I think, was because he was driving a lot. He was getting fouled. He was getting to the line, and it just didn't happen for him this postseason. So I would say he definitely took a hit. He's back in that like top 15, top 20 range now. I'd say, which is still, I mean, that's still really good. But before I was thinking about him like top 7, top 5, which is like the upper echelon of players in the league.
Yeah, definitely. This series loss brought him back down to earth. People that were still ranking him high because of last year's finals run, obviously we want to see them try and replicate the same exact like energy and success. Then they run into a Buck squad, and then you get swept in the first round of the playoffs. That's just not a good look. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I was necessarily putting him top 5, top 7. I know a lot of critics were putting that because of just how he more or less kind of carried Miami to that finals run, even though it was more so a group effort. But um, thinking about Kawhi and PG, well, hypothetically speaking, if they were to like fall out and the Clippers lose to the Mavs, I don't even know how that would work in terms of just Miami Heat culture if they were to go for the next superstar, because they're always going to be linked to those rumors, like what you were saying. And if they were going to try and make a move on Kawhi, they would have to give up significant pieces, I would assume, and not just be able to afford them. They're not Brooklyn. They can't just afford everybody. So would that be the next move for Miami? They're just going to go for the superstars, or just going to keep on like drafting and have these homegrown guys and then just see how it goes from there?
I think their plan would probably be wait for Kawhi in free agency because you don't want to trade those pieces. Like I'm sure Clippers would ask for either Bam Adebayo or Jimmy Butler, and those are two guys who you don't want to give up.
Of course.
Plus, on top of that, they're going to want Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, maybe some additional pieces to make the contracts work or whatever is needed. But for them, I think it just makes more sense to sign Oladipo to a short-term, like low-money deal and see what he looks like when he comes back. And like we talked about earlier, just develop Bam and go from there. Develop Tyler Hero as well because he took a major step back. And I don't know, after the bubble, he was looking like he was going to be an all-star pretty soon. And now it's like his future is kind of up in the air. No one really knows what he's going to be at this point. Is he a starter? Is he someone who just comes off the bench? Because they tried starting him for most of the season and it didn't pan out too well. So they put him back to the bench and you just kind of wonder what his role in the league is going to be now. I still think he has all-star potential in him. I think he can turn into that guy. Yeah, I think they just need to continue developing him and Bam for now and then wait till the bigger names hit the free agent market.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame people for looking at Tyler Hero's, ceiling and potential. If he's going to drop 37 points in a playoff game in a conference finals as a rookie, that's not something that everybody's able to do or everybody has the opportunity or the potential to do. That said, I love how much shit talk that the Bucks Twitter was talking when they swept Miami, and they were like, this isn't the bubble, which is, it isn't. That's why Jimmy didn't play as well. Tyler Hero didn't play as well. And I think
you
everybody
buy that though? You think that's why the bubble?
I don't think it's like as black and white as that, as like, oh, because of the bubble, they were this good. But I definitely see some truth in it. I'll take it with a couple of grains of salt of, yeah, they were mostly successful because of just the sheer personality. And we're in one place. We're able to hone in and really just focus. So I'm not saying like, oh, if they weren't in a bubble, they weren't able to like have matched that same success. But, when it came to this season, when it wasn't in a bubble anymore and you're actually able to travel with like less fans in the arena, they just didn't show up and they got swept in the first round. So I guess I'll just leave it as that.
Did you ever see that clip of, I think it was like Quinn Richardson interviewing Jason Tatum and Tyler Hero? It was like for some ad and they were asking Jason Tatum if people who weren't as good were balling out more in the bubble. And Jason Tatum was like, yeah, like I definitely saw some people who I don't think are that good, like putting on huge performances. And then it shows Tyler Hero and Tyler Hero just starts laughing. And like everyone was saying he was talking about Tyler Hero, like because he had that 37-point game on the Celtics and he was basically saying like, you're not that good. And Tyler Hero just kind of laughed like.
I did not see that interview. Was this a couple of like months ago? Like before the season started?
It was before the season started.
Shit. I gotta look that up later then.
Yeah, I gotta send that to you. Yeah, right. I don't think he was talking about Tyler Hero personally, but everyone was saying like, damn, he said that straight to Tyler Hero's face. But I didn't think he was talking about him, but I just think that's hilarious.
Sports Center headline: was Jason Tatum disrespecting Tyler Hero's game and name in general?
Right to his face.
Yeah. Or like a house of highlights and it's like all the emojis in their captions. God, it's terrible. Speaking of Tatum, though, dude dropped 50 on the Nets. Obviously that's the main reason of why they were able to steal that game 3, but Tatum dropped 50. Marcus Smart shot like Ray Allen. That's not true. I'm not committing to that. Marcus Smart
went shot better than Ray Allen.
All right. John's words, not mine. Smart went 5 for 8 from 3. Tristan Thompson was channeling some like early 2000s Shaq energy by dominating the boards. And on some for a couple of minutes, it seemed like Brad Stevens kind of had the Brooklyn Nets' defense figured out because they were running like a pseudo triangle. They would feed it to Tristan in the paint, and whoever they would be feeding it to the paint, like Tristan or Grant Williams, they would just kick it out because the defense would collapse under the rim. They would just kick it out and then swing it in for three. But that's not a sustainable plan. I don't think the Celtics really have any chance to win this series. So as a biased Celtics fan, I am just happy that they were able to get one. And if there was any way to do it, it would have to be with Tatum putting up like Steph-like numbers and everything having to go right for the Celtics, like Smart shooting better than 25% from three, Tristan Thompson getting hella offensive boards. So, plus Kyrie didn't play too well. And the fact that Kemba went 0 for 7 from three, put up 6 points, and they were still able to win by 6, just goes to show like, wow, I didn't think Tatum would be able to carry this hard, and yet he's been doing it. 50 points in this game, 50 points in the play-in, 50 points, I think, a few days before the play-in tournament also. This dude has just been going off.
Yeah, from the Nets side, though, imagine collapsing on a Tristan Thompson post-up. Like, why would you do that? Like, you're that scared of Tristan Thompson?
Hey, man, if you only have Claxton and then KD as – and Jeff Green was out, so that goes –
Blake Griffin?
Yeah. Harden and KD played well, though. They put like 36 and 42 respectively, I want to say.
I would let Tristan Thompson get all the post-ups he wanted. I would probably not leave the shooters at all. But yeah, for the Celtics to – go ahead.
I was just going to say he just had like 9 offensive boards in the first half alone. And I don't think that's something that's going to be replicated over the next few games.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I'm actually surprised he got that many because even with like Nick Claxton out there, Nick Claxton is a huge effort guy. He's someone who usually makes sure they get those boards. So, I mean, that's surprising in itself. We'll see. And also, it's hard to replicate that level of three-point shooting as well. Hard to replicate Tatum getting 50 every night. Like, it's just, like we were talking about earlier, and you said it's unsustainable, I think, for Boston. But good for them getting a win. Hopefully it ends in 5. That was my prediction. So I'm happy for them. Happy for you, man.
Thanks, man. I mean, as of this recording, this is just after this is just before the Celtics game. This is before the Clipper game, and we're recording this during the Laker game right now. So by the time this gets out, game 4 will obviously have been long gone and long finished. So I guess we'll just have to see where it goes from there. That said, Hawks Knicks, that game ended this morning. The people of New York City versus Trae Young. I thought it was going to be a much closer series. It's not over yet. It's 3-1, but
it's over. It's over.
You think it's over? It's like a done deal. They don't even win. They don't even make it 4-2. Get another game, the Knicks.
They might just because it's in the Garden. But the way they were playing at the end of this game, like it just seemed like the Hawks were in their head. Like Randall gave a frustration foul at Gallinari and just like shoved him and got a flagrant 1 near the end of the game when they were down like 20. Mm-hmm. So it's not looking good to me. Like this series, it's clear that the Hawks are going to win.
Hawks have been looking solid, and I know it's not as simple as, they have the all-star. The team with the all-star is definitely going to win. Not only do they have that, they just have more shooters. And Randall has been, averaging 15 points per game throughout the first 2 or 3 games of the series. Hasn't been playing well. He put up 23 points in this game 4, but yeah, I don't know. He hasn't been playing up to par as what we were expecting him to play to.
Yeah, we were talking about this earlier, but like you said, the Hawks have shooting. Going into it, I thought the Knicks defense, their collective defense, would be able to slow him down. But the reality is that, one, the Knicks don't have that type of big wing that is good at defense, that can stay with him, has long enough arms to contest deep shots, that can stay with Trae Young to make things difficult for him. And they're not able to double team because, like we were talking about, they have really good shooters. Like you double off one guy, he's going to knock down a shot. And they tried that late in the game too. They doubled Trae. Trae just hit Herder for an open 3 and he knocked it down. It's that easy for them. And on the other side, the Knicks, Julius Randle is getting doubled. And they're doubling off of guys like Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin. They're leaving these guys open and saying, if you knock down this shot, that's fine. We'll live with it. But they're not hitting the shot, though. It's not working out for them. And I think that's probably something I should have seen coming too, because I picked the Knicks and I thought their defense was going to come through. But the reality is they don't have like great one-on-one defenders. It's more of a team scheme than anything. And on top of that, you're only able to do so much with Trae Young if you can't double him and get the ball out of his hands because he has so many good shooters around him.
No, that's definitely true. It's more of a group effort and like a zone defense, as opposed to like, I don't know, their help defense isn't as good. And would you say this is more of a coaching problem? Because I've seen Tibbs isn't new to the playoffs. I've seen the Chicago Bulls during, Derrick Rose's MVP season, and Rose would get doubled all the time by that Miami Heat squad. I think they lost to them in like 5 games back in 2011, I want to say 2012. And just having Randall get doubled, is that something more so that Randall just needs to be able to work on he needs to work on getting double teamed better, or coaching situation wise, we should be able to have a better scheme in terms of when Randall gets doubled, who's going to be open?
I honestly think it's more personnel. Like they just don't have the shooters around Randall. Because the thing is, he's able to pass out of double teams, okay, but he's passing the guys who can't knock down open threes.
Mm-hmm.
Like RJ Barrett is not going to make a three like that reliably. Neither are like 6 other guys that they're playing. So I think that's the main problem. I like Thibodeau as a coach. I think he actually got them to buy in and play good defense throughout the year. I think Randall, I mean, he could improve in terms of what to do when he's getting doubled, clearly, because he's having a terrible series, shooting 24% from the field. So that is not good. Even if he's getting his 20-something points, you got to make sure you're efficient because every possession counts. And today they lost by like 20, and he missed a bunch of shots. So he definitely needs to work on his development. But I think in this offseason, they just need to add more quality players. And I think they'll be able to because New York actually having a good season. Like, I feel like that's all they needed to be able to bring in good players.
That's all they needed for Knicks fans to be happy and for NBA players to be attracted to like a New York market.
Yeah. Like their shirt says, their slogan is like, "We here" or something. That's actually like their
y'all
Knicks
here
branded stuff is "We here."
Like, how fun has it been for you to see? Okay, well, we were both born in the late 90s, so we didn't see like Reggie Miller versus the Knicks. But based off YouTube clips and a handful of documentaries that I've seen on ESPN, this is like the same.
I love
type
that
of energy.
Reggie Miller documentary, bro.
Yeah, that one's great. This is like the same type of energy that Trae Young's channeling. Like, yeah, y'all hate me. Fuck you. You're going to chant fuck Trae Young. I'm going to own up to it. It's just been so much fun to watch.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I did not see him becoming like the villain of the league in one series, in one game, really. Because as soon as he hit that floater and he was like, "It's quiet in here," like he instantly became the villain of the league. And if he wins this series, he's the 5 seed. I think seeding doesn't really matter. I think they have the better team, but it's going to be fun to see how he carries that energy into the next series.
Yeah, no, especially, I don't know. Trae's main, I guess, ever since he got into the league and he got traded for Luka, he's always had this chip on his shoulder about people doubting him, people wanting to choose Luka over him. So he's been really able to carry that chip on his shoulder, translate it to a pretty successful stat line against the Knicks. Like he's playing pretty well. I think he has 10 assists, 28 points, 90% from the free throw line, I want to say, 36% from 3, which isn't like crazy, but it's efficient. It's efficient enough.
It's pretty good for like a third, fourth year player to be averaging 27 and 10. And I've always been one
option.
Yeah, and I've always been a Trae Young fan. Like even when the Luka trade happened, I thought it was good for both sides because I think Trae could win like an MVP in this league. I wouldn't be surprised if he won one. He's like that Steph Curry mold. He just needs a good team around him, and he could be in that conversation.
Yeah, no, it's definitely fun to watch. Honestly, just both of these teams, because nobody a couple of years ago would be like, yeah, the Knicks and the Hawks are going to be playing each other as like mid seeds in the 2021.
And it's going to be a good series, a fun series.
I was hoping it would go to 7, but it may or may not be over in 5. But oh well.
I could see it going 6 though, just because in the Garden you'd think the Knicks would show a little more fight. So we'll see. But I think they're clearly outmatched here, whether it goes 5 or 6.
No, I agree. Another team that's kind of young and inexperienced that maybe a few years down the line are going to be like a real threat in the West is the Grizzlies. And this really showed in last night's Jazz Grizzlies game. Or was that last night? Or yesterday
Yeah.
afternoon? So I put here in the notes like, yeah, Mike Conley's good. Don't forget that because I feel like some people do. Clarkson is a pretty solid steal for the Jazz, and the Grizzlies carried a decent amount of momentum. This game was just weird. It was really just a game of runs and momentum swings. And I think they were leading with maybe 3 minutes left to go. I think they were leading by one. And they just got very emotional, kind of got carried away. And the Jazz just swung a bunch of momentum and they were able to close it out. And that just goes to show that, yeah, these young, inexperienced, like scrappy playoff teams can put up a fight for, 45 minutes. But when it comes to the last three and your backs are against the wall, uh, if you can't handle the clutch moments and maintain composure, then you're going to let the game slip out of your hands, which is exactly what happened. And also the Jazz are kind of stacked.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Although I do like the Grizzlies team. Like, they're deep. They're really deep. They have Jonas. They have Dylan Brooks, who's a really good defender. He can shoot. They have Jaren Jackson Jr., who on any given night, like, he might be their most important player with the way he plays defense. He's super lanky. He can knock down the three. He can be their top scorer. Like, he might be their most important guy. And then John Morant is obviously a superstar talent who can drive. Needs to work on his jump shot, but he's so athletic. He's like D Rose-esque, Russell Westbrook-esque, like just one of those super athletic point guards. Their future is bright regardless of what happens in this series. But yeah, the Jazz, this is just their time. Like, they're the number one seed for a reason. And they lost that first game primarily, I think, because Mitchell was out. But with him back, and like you said, they're just stacked. Like, they have too many guys offensively. I think the Grizz, their defense is, it's okay, but they're not going to be able to stop all the options that the Jazz have, especially with the pick and roll that they play. They're just going to find open shooters.
Right. And it's not even like the Grizzlies defense kind of keeping them in the series because the Grizzlies have pretty underappreciated amount of shooters, like the names that you were just saying right now. And when I was watching bits and pieces of that game, I was like, this is pretty close. They're still able to kind of keep it with the Jazz when it comes to just all these three pointers that they're all attempting, and a decent amount of them are going in. So it's weird. I feel like on some level, this is like a great value version of the Jazz because like they do have these first two options, albeit they don't have the same like center with like Valanciunas, not nothing comparable to Gobert, but yeah, I don't know. They have a decent amount of shooters.
Yeah, even like Grayson Allen, who I thought was like, you didn't know if he was going to stick in the league. And now, because of his 3-point shooting, it seems like he's going to be in the league for a long time because he could just knock down shots whenever he's open. And we saw that in the playing game. He knocked down like 2 clutch 3-pointers, and he's continued to do so in the playoffs. And they're going to need that because, like I said, with Ja not being able to shoot that well, they need shooters around him. And that's kind of the way the game is built now, to be honest. Like, you want one guy to break down the defense surrounded by shooters, and that's how you want to construct a team. Like, have that one super athletic guy and then have the shooters around him.
Yeah. Plus, Ja isn't necessarily too afraid to attempt a three. His form's still kind of funky, but when it comes to having like, if the defender is going to go under a screen as opposed to over, he's going to go for that shot. He's not going to be too afraid to go for that open three.
Plus, he's what you call a big game hunter, I think.
Yeah. That's fair.
He steps up his game in big moments. He seems to be at his best. Like that playing game, man. When he hit 5 threes, like that's just big time. He like understood the moment and he hit the threes. He came up clutch when he needed to.
Yeah, seeing Ja go at Steph and just the rest of the Warriors like that, it's like, wow, I knew he was talented. I didn't realize he was like clutch. He had this just dog mentality of, yeah, when it's a big game, backs against the wall, I'm going to show up and my team's going to need me most, and I'm going to show up actually.
He's also averaging 33 points per game right now, which is ridiculous. 33, almost 34 points a game in the playoffs.
Yeah, I like the Grizzlies. Over the next few years, they're going to be fun to watch, barring any injuries. But they have a decent core around them.
And they're just like you hear the Zion Jaw comparisons. Jaw's already made the playoffs, but I think just the roster construction around Jaw is so much better.
Yeah.
Like it just is. That roster is just so much deeper, and because of that is why I think the Grizzlies now pretty much every year, when thinking about the playoffs, you have to think about where do the Grizzlies factor into this, because their roster is pretty much already set. They have a pretty good core, as you were saying.
Yeah, they can either be like consistently in the play-in tournament more so, or I don't know, maybe top 6 seed, top 5 seed like next year.
Yeah, I could see them making a jump into like the 5-4 range, depending on what happens, like who they add, or if anyone walks from their team, which
Mhm.
I mean, I don't know if that'll happen, but I can see them making it to like the 5 seed.
Right. Also, really depending on the health of the other Western teams. Like if the Jazz maintain this, if the Lakers and Clippers and the Nuggets and Blazers have solid regular seasons too.
Yeah,
What do you think about the Suns Lakers?
it's over.
It's
It's
over?
over. As soon as Chris Paul got hurt, it was over. Like, it's unfortunate, dude, for real. Like, I was watching the game. I was looking forward to this series because I like Chris Paul. I like Devin Booker. Devin Booker's play in the first game was phenomenal. Like, he scored, I think, 35, 36 points. And he had some really good post moves where he was looking like Kobe. And I just get excited for moments like that. But since Chris Paul went down, like everything's been on Booker's shoulders to create offense for others, for himself, and they're sending double teams his way. And Chris Paul is just like a shell of himself. Like they're guarding him like he's Ben Simmons,
Mm-hmm.
and it's been working. So to me, honestly, the series probably ends in 5, and we're watching. Or Game 4 is on right now. We'll see what happens. Suns are at 4 right now, but I think this could easily end in 5.
What was the specificity of his injury? It was a shoulder. Was it like a
Contusion,
strain?
but it looked like he hurt his neck or something because he ran into his teammate and like his head kind of had whiplash going back.
Mm-hmm.
It was bad. And like everyone was gathered around him. I don't know if you saw the picture, but like everyone was gathered around him. He was on the floor for a while. He walked out with like a towel over his head. It just was not a good moment. And from that moment, I was just like the series is probably over. And it sucks because Chris Paul is always injured like for these moments. And again, like he's on the number 2 seeded team. They already had a bad draw on the Lakers, and then for him to get hurt just makes it like that much worse.
Yeah, I think the last time CP3 was healthy in a playoff series, it was the second time the Rockets played the Warriors. Because that first time when they played him, I think 2018, he got injured game 6 after they went up 3-2. And then he wasn't there game 7 when they went like 0 for 27 from 3.
Yeah.
And his last stint with the Clippers, he was injured against that Blazers series. It's just been unfortunate. Every time the playoffs come around after like a decent regular season, like what you were saying, he's a regular season winner. And I
Yeah.
know that he can be more than just a regular season winner, but I don't know if it's just like a series of luck, if it's just like glass bones or paper ligaments or whatever you want to call it. But no, it's just shitty. It's just shitty to watch him playoffs come around, most important time in the league, and I'm injured again. So
Yeah, there was also that series where he hit like the game winner on the Spurs. Do you remember that? He hit a
yeah.
game winner, game 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think after that though, he was injured from that shot or something. He hurt himself and then he wasn't the same after that. And that also seemed like it was going to be the Clippers year, but then he got injured. I think Blake was injured. And
That's
yeah,
when they
every
lost the
moment.
3-1 series to the Rockets.
Yeah, so I mean, every time it looks like they have a shot, it seems like he goes down, which is just, I mean, it's unfortunate. It's what happens sometimes to small guards. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's just difficult for them to stay healthy, especially at the age that he's at. Like, he's getting up there now, and his window of opportunity is running out. It makes what they're going to do with him going forward more interesting because it's like, do you keep him around? How much do you have to pay him to keep him around?
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to want to go somewhere else where he has a better shot of actually winning? Um, so yeah, that makes it more interesting. But overall, it just sucks. Sucks that the series is probably going to end in 5, if not 6, and he's going to be going home once again.
In a perfect world, in a utopia, if we were to start the season again without any injuries, would you want CP3 to be on the Suns or would you want him to be on the Bucks?
Bucks.
You think he would make that much of a difference in terms of like defense and stopping, like if they were to run into Miami in the first round again?
Well, would he be there instead of Drew Holiday, or would he be there with Drew Holiday
I guess for the sake of the situation, instead.
instead?
Yeah.
I still like that though. I still really like that because he's just. I mean, I think he has a higher basketball IQ than Drew Holiday.
Oh yeah.
He's not as good defensively, which maybe that's a problem, but I just think he makes their offense much more elite, especially when things slow down. Like he's someone who can create out of nothing, out of a simple pick and roll. He can create a good shot,
Mm-hmm.
especially with someone like Yes being the screener. Like that's something I wanted to see. That's what I wanted, not necessarily this Drew situation, but I mean, it's worked out for the Bucks. It's worked out for the Suns, but I would have wanted to see that.
Yeah. I mean, because I was thinking about this earlier too, just seeing the Bucks sweep the Heat. It's like, okay, having Drew there definitely worked out in their favor. And I don't know if this would have been the case too if CP3 were to be on the Bucks, like if he were to run into injury problems also, or if they
Yeah, that's
would,
true.
they probably would have had a higher success rate just because of like his overall basketball IQ and court vision. But yeah, I don't know. I just started thinking about it, like because either way, the lineup, the alignment of CP3 versus the star player on both the Phoenix Suns and the Milwaukee Bucks, it would have just been off because he's 36. Booker's young. Ayton's young. Milwaukee has Giannis. Giannis is like 25, 27.
Yeah, but I would say the Bucks window is now though.
Mm.
As opposed to like the Suns, their window, I don't think they're winning a championship this year, next year. I think it's a little bit later down the line when Ayton is older, when Booker is a little bit older and in his prime. So I feel like the windows match up more with the Bucks than the Suns.
That's a good point. No, yeah. Sometimes I just wonder like what it would have been like if he just went to Milwaukee instead. But
yeah, that would have been fun.
It seemed to kind of work out for Phoenix for the first couple of months, and then this dude, playoffs, got injured again. It's like fuck. Literally the same narrative is happening over and over again. Let's talk Nuggets Blazers.
Let's do it.
This is a series I've probably followed the least, just being completely honest with
same.
you. But I mean, they're tied 2-2. You put here, looks like they're on a collision course for a 7-game series. It's funny that this is probably the most competitive series, but we've been like paying the least attention to it.
It's just the least sexy, I think, because I mean the Nuggets are injured.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much Dame and CJ are really a draw. Like Dame is fun and watching him is actually fun, but at the end of the day, he plays in Portland. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Like, do you get the itch to watch the Portland Trailblazers? Because I don't necessarily.
No, I do get the itch to watch Jokic with Nuggets.
Sometimes, yeah. But without Jamal Murray, it's like, who's he playing with out there? And I think that's why the series has been like back and forth. I think it's legit gone Portland Nuggets, Portland Nuggets. Wait, no, it's Portland Nuggets, Nuggets, Portland.
Yeah.
In terms of like who got wins. But it's so inconsistent because, I mean, you just don't know what you're getting from Denver's backcourt with their guard situation and Jamal not being there. I think they're playing like Campazzo. They're starting Campazzo. Austin Rivers is getting minutes. You don't know who's going to be coming through there. And then from the Portland side, you have Dame and CJ who are probably going to do their thing, but then it's like, who else is going to step up? So it's just like, I feel like it's just going back and forth in terms of the production they're getting, because there was actually an Austin Rivers game. I don't know if you saw that, but he had a huge game. I think it was game 3, which was a huge part of why they won. And I think the series is going to be games like that where you have a random dude stepping up, making big shots, and getting their team to win.
Who did you have winning this series?
I had Nuggets in 7.
I feel like I think I had Nuggets in 7 also. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'll visit the past episodes.
We gotta listen back to the pod and then I'll quote you on that.
Yeah, I gotta listen to my other predictions.
I'm pretty sure you did though.
No, I mean definitely from here on out, I'm gonna be like, all right, well, if the Celtics Nets don't really go anywhere, and Tatum's not putting up 50, I'm gonna have to pay attention to the Nuggets and the Blazers more.
Yeah, I mean the Celtics series isn't gonna go too much longer, so you have a lot of free time.
All right, thanks, John. Thank you for that. Clips Mavs though, that's later tonight as at the time of this recording. It looked like they were gonna go down. Well, I'm not gonna say that. The Mavs game 3, they were up by double digits at halftime, and big eye emojis were like, are they gonna go down 0-3? Is Kawhi and PG's legacy gonna be tainted yet again? But they came back. They put up some solid numbers, and now it is 2-1. They're trying to make it 2-2. Where do you think the series goes?
Well, just first off, this has been the most thrilling series, especially if you're like plugged into NBA Twitter. It's been so fun, just the memes that come out. Yeah, everything, like, especially when you consider the ramifications past this season for the Clippers if they lose and this epic collapse part 2. Like, would they trade Paul George? Would they trade Kawhi? I don't think they would trade Kawhi. I think that's like off the table. But would they trade PG? What would they do? Would they fire their coach, their GM? I don't think they'll fire their coach again.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. But in terms of where this series is going to go, we have to talk about Luka's injury, his neck injury, and how serious that is. Because if it's serious, I think this series is going to go back to the Clips. If it's just he's kind of just saying that, like, I don't know, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe, like, I think they still have a chance. But this was my fear. Like, I was talking to people about this, and everyone was saying, like, the Clippers are done. The Mavs got this. And I was always saying, well, it depends on two things. One, are they going to keep hitting three-pointers at like a 50% clip? Because that doesn't seem that sustainable. But again, a series is only 7 games, so you never know if that, right? It only goes 7 sometimes. And then the other thing was, can they stay healthy, including their role players? Because Tim Hardaway Jr. has had a huge series for them. Jalen Brunson is a huge piece for them. And Luka got injured last year. KP got injured last year, and they still took it 6 games. But ultimately, I was like, they need to stay healthy and they need to keep shooting this well to have a chance. And game 2 was a really great game when you look at it, because Kawhi had 30 first half points. He ended up with 42. PG had 28, and they still lost. And that just goes to show how well the Mavericks were playing, like how well they were shooting the 3, how well Luka was playing against whoever. Like, he's hunting out Pat Bev, he's hunting out Zubac. He's hitting crazy fadeaways on Kawhi from like the free throw line, hitting step back one-legged 3-pointers. Like, he was just going crazy. But ultimately, I think it all depends on his health, if he can keep his play going, like what he's doing. But ultimately, I'm still going Clippers.
I want Mavs in 7 so badly if Luka was able to keep it up. I saw this stat that out of all the players with at least 20 attempts from 3 in the playoffs, Tim Hardaway is leading all shooters with like 60% from 3 in the playoffs so far. You know who's number 2 though? You're not gonna get this right.
Marcus Smart.
Damn, you got this right.
You thought you could get me, bro?
No, I was trying to psych you out and be like,
I told you he's shooting better than Ray Allen.
All right, that's your words, not mine. But yeah, man, if Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be shooting 60% from 3 in this series, of course the Mavs are going to be playing well. But I don't know, like, I don't know how much of a game plan you can rely on that, because it's really just going to be about Luka. Obviously Jalen Brunson's been coming up big too, but I think Luka had a 30-point triple-double in game 1. And like what you were saying, Kawhi and PG both went off in game 2. They even tried clawing back at the end of game 2. They cut it within single digits, and it still wasn't enough. But Hardaway Jr. was just going off from 3 in that fourth quarter. So yeah, I would love to see a Clipper implosion. That's why I'm gonna go, and
I think that's the most fun outcome, right?
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Imagine everything on Twitter.
Yeah,
everything in the media. Like, that's the most fun outcome of this.
Dude, the Clippers subreddit got locked after the 3-1 blown lead last season. And we're like, no, people keep talking too much shit on this subreddit. We have to stop this. We have to put an end to this. So the moderators got in, and yeah, it's kind of mean. We're rooting for like the Clipper demise, but in terms of like headlines and what's fun drama wise, that's something that I want to see.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if that's what's best for the league, Like especially going into the off season where I mean, we'll see how far they go if they win, but if they lose right now, that's an immediate topic that everyone can talk about throughout the summer is what are the Clippers going to do? And that just makes the summer that much more interesting. And it gives shows like The Jump something to talk about
Oh,
because The
fuck the
Jump has
jump.
turned into like you don't like The Jump, bro? I love The Jump.
The jump is
It's
TMZ with sports, bro. What do you mean?
not even, dude, not
Yes,
even.
it's absolutely what it
Nah,
is.
nah. Bro, they
Bleacher
don't
Rep-
follow people around like waiting outside their houses. What do
I
you
mean, I
mean?
guess, but
TMZ
there's
is like so bad.
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. Bleacher Report,
Yeah,
House
I
of
like The
Highlights.
Jump.
They're kind of turning into that too, with like the drama. Like, go.
Yeah,
Uh,
I don't like Bleacher Report anymore.
I used to love Bleacher Report, and then I saw these notifications like Evan Fournier shoved KD, and they got into it, and they just talk shit for like 5 seconds, and then that was about it. It's like, dude, what is this headline? What is this clickbait that you're
They're
getting
just
me to?
aggregators now, bro.
Yeah, that's true.
I used to like their like the magazine branch because they would write like cool feature stories, but they disbanded that recently, I think. So RIP. Now they're just aggregators. But yeah, getting back to the series, I mean the Clippers implosion, that would be fun, but I don't think it's gonna happen. Yeah, that's pretty much it on this series. Do you have anything else to add?
No, that's about it. I mean, the last series we have to talk about is Sixers Wizards, which is a wrap. It's a wrap. They're up 3-0. You even thought it was over. And it's like, I mean, it
I
basically
legit
is.
did. I was like, it's over, right? It
Yeah.
was a
It's like they got
sweep.
swept. And I was like, they're gonna. The Wizards are gonna get swept. So not really much to say about that other than, Philly's been in full force. Embiid put up 36. Um, yeah, I don't know. They have a solid starting five, and I like Thibault as a defender. I don't know if that gets talked about as much because Ben Simmons could be like a defensive player of the year candidate also, but I like their odds in terms of the top teams in the East. I don't know where. Well, I'm assuming that the Sixers is going to sweep the Wizards, and if not, a gentleman sweep 4-1. So
Yeah.
I like how they match up. I don't think they'll beat Brooklyn. They'll probably be a 7-game series if they were to like face Milwaukee instead. But in terms of just what their lineup is and how Embiid is able to finally deal with double teams much better compared to like last season. It's just nice to see that growth and nice to see that this could be a little bit more competitive than we initially thought.
Yeah, we were talking about this beforehand. I was telling you I saw a clip of Embiid reading double teams. There were like two possessions on one. The double team was coming, but slowly. So he faded the opposite direction and hit a fadeaway three, or not a fadeaway three, fadeaway jumper. And
Mm-hmm.
then on the next possession, they sent the double way quicker, and he sent a quick pass over to Seth Curry, who hit an open three. And just reads like that is like how you can really see someone's development. And I'm interested to see how it goes next series once they go up against the Hawks because the Sixers do have the personnel to guard Trae Young one-on-one. Like
Mm-hmm.
they could throw Simmons at him and that would probably shut him down. They can throw Thibault at him. Who Thibault's probably gonna be like all NBA defense this year. So
Agreed.
having those two guys to send at Trae Young is probably what's gonna decide the series in the next round.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they have the personnel. They have what New York. They have what the Knicks lack in terms of what are these wings that can actually go 1-on-1 as opposed to, this is more of like a zone. This is more so about who can help, who can switch on who. And it's like, yeah, we got these individual matchups for this upcoming series. That's why I was already talking about Milwaukee and Brooklyn because it's like, all right, they're going to get through the Hawks.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I think we're all set in terms of what was the gist of each series, and if everybody was too busy with their work week and they didn't know what the fuck was going on with the league, because it's hard to keep up with this shit. We're doing
It
our
really
best
is.
here.
There's so many games every day.
I miss NBA playoffs, man. Every day there's like 3 games, and it's like, oh, this is what I missed. I missed this so much.
Yeah, same dude. It's really fun to just tune in and see what's happening every game. And just an update. Apparently, AD went down with an injury, and the Suns are up 8 now. So maybe the series isn't over. Who knows? Tune in next time to find out.
Hey, Suns in 7. That's what John is saying. Thanks again
I
for
don't know,
listening.
man.
This is Technically Foul Sports Podcast. I'm Jaryd Bunkeris. That's Jonathan Fernandez. Catch us next time to see if the Suns actually makes this a series. We'll catch y'all next time.